Basically what happened is everything in the industry is always based from offset. Okay, offset has a standard gamut of color. Well, what happened now is all these really cool flatbed devices, roll devices have an expanded gamut. The Epson proofers, things like that. They have an inherent larger gamut of color that weren't being utilized because everything was being dumbed down to the offset world. Because if you have common collateral, you want it to look the same across all your different platforms. So what PrintWide does, which is really cool, incorporating G7, we'll explain about that in a minute, is enables you to have a common visual appearance with other collateral coming from different printing devices, but expands the gamut off your devices as far as your flatbed, your grand format, and now your banners, your static clings, anything you print on large format can now become more colorful because you can expand the gamut. And probably the coolest thing about this whole thing, I'll tell you right now, it's free. This came out of Print Properties Committee, and you can pick it up and you could use it in your workflow. So what it is it's translation space. What it does is it expands the gamut of a typical CMYK device. So you don't need additional inks, which is kind of cool. Also, saturation, it's a saturation booster, like I was just saying, without affecting all the other things, your neutrality and your pastels and your flesh tones. The outside ring is your PrintWide, okay? That's all the additional color you're now realizing out of your device that's already there. And it's a very simple one-step process that can be done with a curve, a calibration curve, an ICC profile, or a combination of both. You don't have to have a G7 ink, a G7 substrate. G7 is what we call substrate relative. By putting that target on that substrate and calibrating to it, you can now create a common visual appearance amongst all those different devices with the different inks and different substrates. You can line them up together, and I've done it because I've been there, and now you have a common visual appearance across all collateral. Two options. I was talking a little bit about this before as far as being a certified G7 expert. What you do basically, G7 expert has to submit a facilities for certification, which is done on a yearly basis. And you can either have an employee as a G7 expert on staff, or you can hire a Idealliance expert through the directory. And they're awesome. We got a lot of great people out there in the field right now. Real quick, I'll give you a quick story. One place I went to, they took an hour and a half to get up the color. Now they're running thousands of sheets with that ink on there, and plus it puts stress on the schedule. Once we introduce G7 technology and calibrate them to G7 methodology, they're getting up the color in 5 to 10 minutes. So just think now, the stress they're taking off the schedule, less waste, less overtime.